we left off at the place where COVID happened. You got the job at the hospital, and you said COVID had saved your life. So if you could just go from there.
Yeah. So with COVID, I moved into an apartment and had roommates, and that got me around people again. And you really need to be around people if you're gonna have social skills. Like you
Yeah.
start getting weird for too long. And I think that helped me quite a bit, and it helped me. I had kind of been in and out of AA, but I never really gave it a shot. And something I kind of left out is when I moved down to the Bay Area for this job, right when I got there, my dad died. He had a heart attack
Oh, sorry to hear that.
there. So I had no reason to go back home. Like I was originally planning on getting this job, and they have a hospital back where I'm from, and I was going to transfer back. And once he died, after my parents had divorced like 4 years before that. They were married 30 years. They got divorced. And then 4 years later, my dad died. And a couple years before they got divorced, another major thing happened is my sister was living in Texas with her husband, and he was addicted to pills, and she came out for and he killed himself. He hung himself in the living room, and she got the call when she was here, and that just kind of was like, like that took my breath away because I was going down that same path. And once that, I really, I never felt somebody cry so hard in my arms, like when I was hugging her. Like I just never felt somebody cry like that before, and I still haven't to this day. But it kind of took away, like suicide that's no longer an option when she's already been through that. My family's already been through that.
Yeah.
And I think that's why that was completely off the table. Like not only did I just knew I'd never do that because I just went through that with him, and like he's just, I don't know, he was such a cool guy too. It was just like such a shame. And like when I talked about like feelings are only temporary, man, if he could have just hung on, I know things would have gotten better for him. I know it. And he was just such a good person. Like it's tough because they had a 1-year-old at the time, and I ended up moving in with my sister and kind of helping raise him for that first year. And she ended up meeting somebody else, getting remarried, and they have kids of their own now. And but that was a big moment in my life. That was like, man, that's where it goes. That's where this goes. So once I got into a place and got roommates and got around some people again, and started giving AA a shot because I had just nothing. I mean, we're at the it's jails, hospitals, and cemeteries. That's where you end up. And I was right on the edge. I was right there. Bank accounts in the red, all the lights on my dashboard of my car are lit up. It's leaking oil. Check engine light's been on for months. There's not. Air conditioner is not working, and it's summer. Like I'm dying. And I've already been through a winter without a heater, and it was another summer without a air conditioner, and it's just like it can only take so much. So when you're at the bottom, you only have one way to go, and that's up.
Yeah, sure.
So I started giving AA a shot, and AA really, really helped me. I got a year sober, and that was really just changed everything for me. It changed, I worked, I think I got to step 9. And doing those steps have lasted in my life for, giving me the ability to change my perspective and always have a place to go. And I've met so many cool people in AA and through online Zoom meetings and things like that. That's why I'm able to reach out to you guys and in comments, is because I'm used to doing it through AA. You just call strangers and be like, "Hey, man, saw you in an AA meeting. Like, how's it going?" And just like introducing yourself to strangers and realizing just people are people, man, and like people struggling need to talk to other people. So,
Oh yeah.
You know, it's always a good thing when somebody calls you. It feels good. But I, you know, again, that didn't last either. Like I ended up going back out because things got good, you know. So it's not only when you don't only I don't only drink when things are bad. I also drink when they're good. And
Absolutely.
I drink when I'm sad. I drink when I'm happy. I drink, you know, drinking a drug when I'm bored. You know, when I'm excited. You know, you're doing it for every emotion. Well, that's something wrong there. Um, so I had to relearn how to like live life on normal emotions and like have normal ups and downs and kind of let my brain reset. Um, you know, a funny thing happens. I don't know if this happened to you, especially on opiates. You don't realize it, but like once you get clean, things get brighter, colors get brighter. You know, you've kind of been dulling your senses and living even in like such a narrow range of emotions. Um, that once your brain starts healing, it's kind of crazy. Like I would just stare at leaves and be like, man, it's so green. That's crazy. And like I don't know, just way more grateful for little things now than I ever was. And that's when addiction becomes a superpower, right? Like once you've gone through hell, the normal stuff seems like heaven.
Oh,
Uh,
absolutely.
it's way easier to be grateful, you know. And I talked to my friend Brian Smiles for Miles. He's another YouTuber, and we talk about how it's like a superpower because it just gives you such a perspective that nobody else will have because nobody would voluntarily go through what we've been through to get that perspective, you know.
Yeah.
So I can be grateful about, you know, really little things that seem like nothing. Um, but yeah, and that kind of, you know, I had a couple slip ups and kind of went back out, but nothing like before, you know. And I'm way happier sober. Kind of had to test the waters a couple more times to make sure. But yeah, things are good, man. I mean, they aren't, you know, obviously I did a ton of damage over the years and like have insane debts and have nothing, but I have a job. You know, I have a place to live. I'm making progress on everything, you know. Um, my health's back. My personality's back. My hobbies, like enjoying hobbies, is back. My relationships are better than they've been in probably 20 years. Yeah, things are on the upswing. And now I'm kind of like looking towards the future. And this YouTube channel is kind of giving me a whole new, like, you know, I always had a hard time with like making money and like working terrible, shitty jobs that I hated. Well, the fun thing about sobriety is like things start happening that are good that you always wanted, but not necessarily in the way you think they are, you know. And this has given me a chance to like be creative and like have a creative outlet, which I've always wanted as like a job or, you know. And obviously this isn't really a job, but it's like it's kind of what I always wanted was to make videos and like share things and connect to other people and just have creative outlets and meet other people that I can connect with. And you know, I want to have people on my channel and you know do a bunch of different stuff on there. Maybe host like weekly AA type Zoom meetings on there and things like that. So yeah, so I'm just kind of at working and staying sober, man. So
So,
yeah,
what do you think was your rock bottom?
yeah, rock bottom's a funny one because it's not always when things um, rock bottom can be when things are the worst they've ever been, but it's not always, you know. Um, some of the rock bottoms that I've had, like the last rock bottom that was just like made me realize it's over and I'm done, wasn't even that bad. I was just hung over, you know, it wasn't even that bad. It was just that like I missed little opportunities, you know. But it was just the pattern of having missed so many opportunities so many times for so many years that it just made me realize, God, dude, I just can't go back there. But yeah, definitely like rock bottom is like, you know, as far as the traditional sense is, you know, living in my car when I have no money, my bank account's overdrawn and addicted to everything, just withdrawing all the time. What was I going to say? I had a seizure in a classroom at Chico State. You know, like that was pretty embarrassing. Just like I had taken a whole handful of tramadol which lowers your seizure threshold. It's an opiate they give like dogs and stuff. But that's all I had. I took like, I don't know, 10 or 12 of them before I went to class. And I was also taking St. John's wort, which is an over-the-counter antidepressant. And both of those lower your seizure threshold. And so the teacher turned off the light and turned on the projector, and it kind of flashes. And it just, I've never had a seizure in my life, but that gave me a seizure. And I just remember waking up and like not knowing what happened. I felt like I was in a dream. I kept asking the paramedics, like, what happened? And they told me you had a seizure. And they'd go through it and tell me everything. I'd be like, oh, wow, that's crazy. And then like 2 minutes later, I'd be like, what happened? Because when you have a seizure, your memory doesn't work right. You just keep asking the same questions over and over. And you're like, what happened? You know, and they tell you, and then you forget, and then they tell you again. So those are, you know, those, I think a big thing too is just like missing like opportunities of like, I always wanted kids. I don't have kids. I don't have a wife. I don't have a girlfriend. You know, things like that, kind of lowering my standards for myself and be like, well, I guess I didn't want to do that, you know, rather than stop doing what I'm doing. Family, you know, kind of I let getting, you know, I'm sure I put my mom and my sisters through and my dad through hell, you know, and I probably would, if I wasn't addicted, I would probably be a lot closer to them than I am to this day. Um, Same with my nephews, just kind of missing a lot of like them growing up. We're really close now, but like I definitely missed a lot. So yeah, I think missed opportunities is probably the
For
that's kind
you, what was the hardest one for you to kick? Was the alcohol or the pills or
of, I
all of it?
mean, they're all different. They're all hard in their own way. Even smoking is very hard to kick. But like, I mean, I've been through like 14-day opiate withdrawals where you're, you know, it's like you want to die. Like you can't leave your bed. I mean, you're possessed. Um, Opiates, a bad opiate addiction when you have to quit cold turkey is really tough. Those third through seventh days are really tough. And you know, benzos have their own little like brain zaps and things like that. Alcohol has that like crazy, just like anxiety that comes with it of just like, man, I always tell people when you're in withdrawal, it's like you're in a sauna that you don't get to get out of. Like it's
Yeah.
100 degrees in there. You don't get to get out for days. And yeah, anybody can do it for an hour, but try doing it for days. And there's no way out except for taking that substance. And that's the cold Russian cool air. And you know, and it's always available, you know, especially
Oh,
with
it's everywhere.
so to kind of go through that, it's no wonder people don't go through withdrawal. It's, you know, a lot of times for me, it was always forced. I mean, shouldn't say that, but a lot of times it was forced because I ran out and I had no money. I had no options. I had no way to get it, you know, anymore. The jig was up. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, gambling's a tough one. I was addicted to gambling because with gambling, like if I get drunk, I may lose a couple $100 at the bar, may have a hang. But I may do things I wish I regret, but as long as I didn't like kill somebody or, you know, do something major, I can make that up in a week or 2 weeks. With gambling, I could lose, you know, thousands of $50,000 over a year, and you can't make that up just working a couple extra shifts.
Yeah.
So things like that. That you know, you might have one night you lose $2,000. It's like, dude, like, yeah, it's gonna take you months to
What was
have
it
it.
about the gambling that attracted you?
I think that was my first addiction. I think my dad owned you know, my dad had very like up and down emotions and not a lot of delayed gratification, like a lot of instant stuff. And he owned, they started with a restaurant and then he opened like a comic book and sports card shop. And so he sold sports cards. And if you grew up getting sports cards in those times, they're like gambling. You get like there's like special packs you can get. Like, you know, you may pay $10 for this pack, but like 1 out of 7, you can get an autograph of a player and it could be worth $100. That's the idea. And that's what I would spend my money on, my allowance on. And like, and that was just like, that was what he did for work. So it was like, I was very encouraged to spend your money to try to get an autograph or something. It's kind of
Yeah.
shady. Probably not the best thing to have your kids spending their allowance on and money they saved on. But yeah, I think that was probably the beginning as like, and then this is crazy. When I was in 5th grade, I entered a contest in the back of a comic book to win an arcade game, and I filled out like 200 uh, like applications or whatever. And then like 6 months later, I was in class in 5th grade, and my dad came to pick me up, and he's like, "You won! Like, there's an arcade game at our house," and they
Wow.
dropped. Isn't that crazy? And so we had this X-Men Children of the Atom fighting game in my house that I won.
I
And
would
so I
imagine
think
that really did kind of kick the gambling off because you got reward for what you were doing.
they say the worst thing that can happen to a gambler is they win when they start.
Yeah.
You have a big at the beginning, and that's exactly what it was for me. I think I had quite a few big wins, like over the years. And those keep you chasing it, thinking
Yeah.
that you're going to get it. Um, so yeah, I think it's a very insidious one that's not talked about as much. And yeah, it's become easier than ever to gamble online with like VPNs, and the games are more
Oh yeah.
exciting. It's you have a casino room. It's let alone all the Indian casinos around me that are exciting and fun, and yeah, it's just
So
depends on what you do.
compared to the other addictions that you had, where would you place the gambling at in like the tier? So if alcohol was up here, and painkillers are in the middle or whatever, how where would you place your gambling as far as like on a scale of your addiction?
I don't. It's kind of hard to compare because it's almost like a parallel, because it's not like when you're withdrawing from gambling, it's not like an opiate or alcohol
Yeah,
withdrawal.
yeah, yeah.
Mental, and like you just want to do it. And I never really gambled unless I was drinking. Like when
I
I
was
was
about to
young,
ask
it
you that. Would you have to be intoxicated before you would gamble?
really kicked off is when I was old enough to drink, and I'd
Yeah.
go to casino and just get hammered. Or in my room, I just sit in my room and get a bottle of wine and just drink 2 bottles of wine and gamble online, and black out. Not you wake up in the morning, you have no idea what happened. You check your
Oh
bank account,
wow.
it's $100. Like, how am I going to make $400 to get it back to even? And like taking payday advances, and like all this craziness, man, pawning stuff, and it just gets nuts. Um, but yeah, it's not necessarily like, as far as like the addiction, it's the combination of the other addictions with that one that really propel it. And then it's um, it just does a lot of damage. It just does a lot of damage for a long time. Like it's like $1,000 at a time. It just makes it so you can never get a house and you do never have anything. Um, and it's a very shameful one that, like, I'm probably more ashamed of that one than any of the other ones, because there's a certain, I don't know, certain like badassness to being the other ones, because it's such a crazy thing you've experienced in life. Not that it's cool, like if you're living it, but like it's just seen more positive than having a gambling addiction. Um, yeah. So yeah, I don't know that I necessarily rate it. I mean, it's up there though, as far as like damage it causes. And I
What?
think it's getting worse. It's so much easier to gamble than it's ever been.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I see advertisements for it every single day. I mean, you listen to a podcast, you watch something on YouTube or what, they're always advertising for these gambling websites.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's being endorsed by these guys too. It's I can't remember the name of the gambling site, but you hear about it all the time. Um, what got you sober? What did you do in order to get sober?
Dude, what didn't I do? I mean, I feel like it's like that thing where it's like I tried every other way there is. Like I failed in every way possible until I figured it out. I got good at withdrawing. Like I'm good at with going through withdrawals. Like I know how to do it, so it's not that bad because I've just done it so many times, and I know how to wean. I know what over the counter stuff I can take. I know what CBD gummies I'm going to take. Yeah, like I think all that um, experience helped me get sober because I just know how to do it. Um, it was always so hard for me. It wasn't getting sober, it was staying sober. That was really hard. That's always going to be the hardest part for me. Um, what was the question again? I had something for it. I
What
just
what
forgot what.
what did you do to get sober?
Um,
Did you go
so
to
kind
did you go to a rehab facility? Did you do any counseling?
I've done rehabs, but the last time I got sober, no, I just did it on my own because I was good at it at that point. But yeah, I've done multiple rehabs. I've done inpatient, outpatient. I've done locked facility. I've done the 30 days. I've done the 72-hour hold. Um, yeah, I love rehab. I love rehab. I always went to like a behavioral health because I could never afford like a real rehab, like, you know. Um, but I was always able to get in, it seemed like. Um, and I usually did 30 days. And that was always a fresh start, it's kind of, but it's also, stuff. 30 days isn't very long to be thrown back out into life and try to figure it all out. But I think honestly, it's just getting sick and tired of being sick and tired, man. My body was starting to give in. I started to have the liver pain. I started to have the epigastric pain, kidney pain. I'm starting to have really bad heartburn, thinking I'm having a heart attack. Dad died young of a heart attack. I've destroyed my body for 25 years, like probably going to die young. You know what I mean? Like, if I don't stop. And I think losing an ex girlfriend that I really loved was like really hard. Because I got a taste of like, oh man, like I can have a good life, and I got a taste. I That year sober really helped me like get a taste of life, not only that I lost, but I never had. I never got to that point. You know what I mean? Like it's not just getting to what you lost. It's stuff I never had because of addiction. I just never got there. So kind of getting a glance at that. That's what I want. The things I want now, I don't care. I just want like a relationship with my nephews. I want to see them grow up and see what kind of people they become. I want to meet a girl. I don't care if we have kids. I don't care if we have money. I want a relationship to like just have somebody around. I want to read books. Like I just I want little stuff, man. I don't want. I traveled quite a bit in my addiction. Like I went to Thailand for 6 weeks. I went to China for a week. I've been to Costa Rica and Guatemala. Um, there's a lot of crazy stories there and stuff. But I don't need any of that. I just need like relationships, friends. Like I love calling people that are addicts. They're my favorite people to call because there's no, like they've been through it, man. I can talk, I can say whatever I want to say, and it's not going to scare them.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like we're just all connected in that way. And then like
absolutely.
so over, it's so hard that we're just like really connected in this like brotherhood, and that keeps me going. Like it keeps me going that I can call these people. I can call you. I can call Smiles for Miles. I could probably call Slayer Sloper. I can call people from AA and just be like, "What's up, man?" Like those are my best friends now. Like some friends I've never met in person. They're AA Zoom meetings, and I talk to them, almost daily. It's crazy, and feel more connected to them than I ever felt to like anybody else. Really, as far as like friendships that are helping me become a better, you know. Um, so yeah, I don't know. That's the type of stuff that motivates me now. Is like little stuff like that.
When I'm sure that there's points in time that you still get cravings, at this point. What do you do when those situations arise? How do you get past them? And I'm asking this for everybody that's going to be watching this today. You know, maybe you've got something that you do that helps.
Oh,
And I really would like to hear, also on top of that, because you mentioned that, you know, that you got really good at, you know, withdrawing, getting off of, you know, opioids and stuff like that. And I would imagine that somebody's going to run across this video at some point that is dealing with that exact problem. And maybe you have some advice for somebody that might be able to stop as well. Um, so if you could just tell me like what you do when you have a craving and you know give some advice on, you know, if somebody is trying to get off of like opioids or something like that, what they could do that could ease it and maybe make it a little bit easier. That's not I don't have any experience with at all.
yeah. No, I definitely have, you know, a lot of experience with that. I will say, like, they're very different things. Getting off of the substance and dealing with a craving, the things you do are completely different. And that's one thing that people who haven't been addicts kind of confuse. Is like, you can't just go to a yoga class if you're in the middle of withdrawal. You're not gonna,
Yeah, yeah,
you know. But if you're having a craving and you've been sober, but you're just having a craving, then yeah, you can maybe do something like that. For me, it's always, it takes multiple things. I can't just do, like, it's nice to say that you just go to yoga if you have a craving, or go for a run. It's like, yeah, but like what the craving's going to do is, you know, so I never let my lawn get too high. I always keep mowing it. So I keep those cravings at bay daily by preventing, like preventative. I don't let them even come because I'm already doing stuff. I'm already going to the gym today. I'm already calling my friend after the gym. I'm already, after I do that, I'm going to go home and make a video. You know, I stay ahead of it. If I'm getting into it and I haven't been doing those things, for me, it's multi steps. I can't just change my mood suddenly. I have to just recognize that I'm having a craving, that it's temporary. It's a temporary emotion, right? And that, all that'll get me to do is maybe hopefully open up like an AA big book or an online meeting. And then that, you know, it's kind of like turn your brain off. Don't think, you know, turn it off and just do the next little thing. And maybe, hopefully, and usually that, you know, I'll read the big book for a little bit, or I'll go to an online meeting, and that will kind of change my perspective and change my feelings a little bit. That'll get me enough to call somebody, and then I can call somebody. And then by the time I've called somebody, usually by then, like, I've done a couple things, that's kind of got me out of it. Because I was able to actually talk about the issue. And that's the great thing about talking to other addicts is I can't call my mom necessarily and say, hey, I'm craving opiates right now. You know, like, I mean, I probably could, but like, it's just not, I'm not going to get the response that she doesn't get it, you know. But I can call a friend that's been through heroin withdrawal and like talk about it and get it off my chest. And then once I do that, then I can get to the gym. Like, it just, and then eventually it goes away. The more you do that, you kind of suffocate cravings. They die off. They get further apart, and they don't last as long. You know, I've had cravings last for days before when I'm newly sober, and all I can do is go to sleep. I'll take a melatonin and just make myself go to sleep. Take like 2 melatonins. So that's kind of like some of the stuff I do when I'm having a cravings to get ahead of it. Um, if you can't get ahead of it, you can't get out of the mood, try to take melatonin. I take melatonin gummies. I never not have melatonin gummies because I can take 2 of those and I'll pass out and I'll just sleep it off. I'll just basically put myself under. CBD gummies, for I don't use those necessarily when I'm like, I don't keep those in my house, but if I'm going through withdrawals, those are very good because they work on different receptors, so they'll help you. It's like an anti-anxiety. It's expensive because they're expensive. You have to take a bunch of them, but it doesn't stimulate the receptors of like opiates or alcohol or anything. So it'll calm your anxiety, but it'll also, that time that you're on it counts towards withdrawal time. It's not going to reset you. The other thing I would suggest for going through withdrawals is everybody does it too fast. You know, everybody does it too fast, and that's terrible. Not only because it's like cruel and unusual punishment, it doesn't have to be that painful. Because the shorter you do it, the more painful it's going to be, the harder it's going to be. You stretch it out, it's still hard, but it's not as hard. So I always do it over a long time. The other reason you want to do that is because you have to get used to living a life without being able to control your emotions with a substance, a pill or something. So you have to kind of, in my opinion, slowly ease into that, because you have to develop those things. Like I have to be like, all right, well, I'm not taking any more than I usually would. I'm just going to take this amount. And if I can only take what I took yesterday, that's a win. So I'll do that for a few days. Now, if I can take like a tiny bit less, that's a win, you know? And then as I'm doing that over, you know, a few weeks, now suddenly I'm at like half of what I was, you know, and it hasn't been that terribly hard, but it's been a couple, you know, maybe a month or two. Um, and then I can start like playing guitar. I can start getting running again. I can start developing these habits that I'm going to need when I'm on nothing while I'm still on it. So I always start running and I start going to the gym. Those are two things I always start doing well before I'm off, because I want them there when I am at, you know, the 0 hour where I'm not taking anymore.
Gotcha.
I want them to be developed. I don't want to have to be super sore for 3 days if I go to the gym, you know. That CBD, melatonin, um, um, online AA meetings. I mean, you don't necessarily have to do, you know, I know a lot of people have different thoughts on those. Man, I'll tell you what, those are a lifesaver when you don't have anywhere to go and you're just feeling anxious, you don't have anybody to call. Because or in person, because those will get you, that's just listening to other people that are experiencing the same thing. And it kind of gives you a little bit of motivation and hope. So, you know, a combination of all those. And then, you know, it's hard, but like telling somebody that you know personally what you're going through, and that is so you don't have to do it alone, because it's really hard to do it alone. And it's, um, I don't know, man, it's just a lot easier with somebody that you can call, you know, that feels for you and understands, knows you. But not everybody has that. And I haven't always had that. It's still possible to do without that. Another thing, not for necessarily for withdrawal, but like once I am sober, is keeping up on a gratitude list. I really believe in that. And it doesn't have to be like, you know, big things. I'll do the color green. You know, I'm grateful for the color green. How cool is it that we get to experience the color green? Like that I have a green cup, that there's green in that, like, and blue. Like that's kind of cool that we're those beings that get to experience those colors. You know, you just kind of like treat yourself like a little kid. You change your perspective to that being like a little kid. Um, and that always helps me. Try not to make it worse. That's a motto I always tell myself. Okay, I don't have to necessarily, I can be mad, I can be angry, I can be resentful today, and I cannot do all these things I should do, but I'm not going to make it worse. That's a big one. You know, put the plug in the jug. Just don't make it worse and try to get to sleep, you know, try to get to nighttime.
Yeah.
You know, I said things I shouldn't have said or this or that, but I didn't take anything. And you know, I could try again tomorrow. It didn't make it any worse. That's always a big motto of mine. Yeah, I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, in-person meetings are really good if you have AA meetings around you, especially when you're kind of withdrawing, because they'll pick you up and they'll kind of help you get through it and call you and stuff. Take some of the work off of you. They'll reach out to you. Yeah, I don't know that I necessarily have too many more
Okay.
besides like a
I
few.
was, I was just wondering if you could just share some of the tips that you had, because you know that's something I don't ever really discuss on this channel. Is you know, it's really, I talk about alcohol more than anything else, because that's what I have more experience with is alcohol.
Yeah, they're very similar. I mean, withdrawal is withdrawal. Withdrawal is just your brain's been given too much of either serotonin or dopamine for, you know, you've had that key to unlock that anytime you
Yep.
want.
I say that
Now
all
you,
the time, that it's the dopamine that we're chasing.
yeah, substance. That's why like it really doesn't, addiction to me, it's like it doesn't really matter the substance. I can always find a different substance.
Yeah.
It's what it's um and so I would say all the things I said, you know. I mean, there's also like the little stuff like, you know, have Gatorades and electrolytes and Excedrin migraine is really good because it has caffeine in it. That really helps with the headaches. Not clenching your teeth. Sometimes I'll start like clenching my teeth real bad, and that causes a really bad headache. And then when you get a really bad headache, all your ability to resist
Do you clench your
goes away.
teeth when you in opioid withdrawal?
Sometimes. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. So I always have to consciously not clench my teeth. I haven't heard that for everybody, but that's just something I tend to do.
gotcha.
Um, there's the little stuff. Have food around, have, a bath, Epsom salt, all that stuff. But to me, those are just like, those never really made the
They
difference.
take the edge off just a little bit, but they're not gonna be a cure all.
The biggest thing for me is time, like stretching it out and then using like non-addictive, like things like CBD gummies and
Yeah,
melatonin. Um, yeah, stretching it out over time though is my biggest probably thing that I recognize that people don't do, and it's really hard to just go suddenly cold turkey, especially if you're doing off multiple substances, and
absolutely.
then world that you have.
I'm gonna go ahead and stop this